السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد على آله وصحبه أجمعين. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. If I were to ask you, pose a question, that what does unity look like? Right? So we understand what it means as a definition, as a concept. What does it look like? Yani practically. What's required? What are its essential components? What are the benefits? What happens when you don't have it? Yani, what does unity look like? Now, the easy and quick answer is, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the Sahaba, that was unity. Of course it was. But that doesn't answer the question. Again, you're giving an example of the concept. But on a component level, yani the mechanics of it, how it works, what the benefits are, right? What happens when things don't go right? What does it require from me as an individual? Like, those questions are not answered by that statement. Because getting from point A to point B, from getting this understanding that, yeah, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did have unity, but now we know that we don't. That is the hard truth. There's a thing about hard truths. There's so many sayings about truth. One of them is more or less the meaning that truth only benefits the one who cares about it in the first place, right? You have to want to hear the truth. You have to want to know the truth. There has to be something that is there inside of you to accept the truth. Otherwise, ego and arrogance and delusions and yani all the issues that we have, they kick in. And you will argue and rebel and this and that and the other, deny and blah, blah, blah. There's one author, he said, if you're going to tell the truth, you better make them laugh, or otherwise they'll kill you. This is a non-Muslim who said that, by the way, obviously. But there's some truth to that statement. The truth is, we don't have unity. We don't. Why not? What has happened to us over the centuries? What has happened to us in our communities, in our families, in our personal lives? What has happened that now the concept exists in our minds, but the practical reality does not exist in our lives? Again, these are real questions. That's what Jumu'ah is for, isn't it? I can present you with some fluff, and we can go over the same things. And like, for instance, I could sit here and I could consume 10, 15 minutes with ease, that this is the importance of salah, right? Very easily. And there's a time and a place for that, absolutely, of course. We can go over the fadail of the salah. But if you look at the khutbahs of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he do during a khutbah? Do you know that the sunnah, actually, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he would become so animated during his khutbahs that his face would turn ahmar, his face would turn red, and his voice would get really loud. And if you know anything, if you ever gone through the Shama'il, if you ever heard any description about Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, that was not his demeanor, meaning that he was I don't want to say he was soft-spoken, but he spoke at a very level tone, right? But when it came to these khutbahs, when it came to Jumu'ah, and it came to addressing the ummah, addressing the Muslim community, it was these issues that were pressing. It was these issues that were important. It was these issues that now there had to be some force behind it. Critical points. Where is our unity? Because you and I also know that the hadith of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is true, that depending on which riwayah you're looking at, between 70 and 73 sects. This ummah will now split into. What is the cause of that? The cause of it is real simple. The cause of it is real simple. When you leave the path, when you leave the way, when you leave the mode, when you leave the methodology, which has been established, it is tried, it is true, it is approved of by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you abandon that, and now that you believe that your intellect, and you believe that your ego and your personal perception and opinions, and now that you are special, when that takes over and now it causes you to divert and change your course away from what is already tried and true, then naturally, of course, the result is going to be something different. When money and power become important, when ashya'ud dunya, when the things which are strictly related to the life of this world are given precedence over those which are now everlasting and are related to the akhirah and are related to our meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are related to our overall success, yani which are explained very clearly for us in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you and I have the benefit now of centuries, almost a millennium and a half of Muslims who have now walked this path, and the signs of their acceptance are clear and manifest. But in absence of that, in absence of unity, what do we have? When everybody believes that they are the exception to the rule. When now my concern is, it's my job, it's my bills, it's me, it's mine, it's what I want, it's my dreams, it's my hopes, it's my aspirations, it's my family. Where's the sense of ummah? Because when you say unity, what are we actually talking about? Ummah. That's what we're talking about. I didn't want to use that word in the beginning. But when we talk about the concept of unity, we're talking about the concept of ummah. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. So where is the ummah, the unity within the ummah? Because see, in order to be unified, like the Sahaba, we have to have a unified intention. We have to have a unified way of engaging with each other. We have to have a unified way of engaging in this dunya. We have to have a unified way of approaching decision making and priorities. All of that has to be unified. If I come to the table coming from one perspective and I have my own priorities and I have my own intentions and they don't align up, say for instance, with another 5 people that are sitting at the table, then of course the vast majority of the time what we are going to do is we're going to argue with one another because I want what I want and he wants what he wants and he wants what he wants. And I have my belief and I'm very firm and I'm staunch about it. And I'm like, this is what I believe. And right. And same thing for him and same thing for him and the other, the individuals that are sitting at the table. Now, if you take that number and you multiply it, not 5 or 6, 5 or 600, 5 or 6,000, 50, 60,000, 5 or 6 million. What happens? We are in the midst of a pandemic. That part is not the issue is this. Any crisis, right? Anytime you put under pressure, pressure does what? It exposes weaknesses. Any of you who are engaged in like engineering, architecture, anything like that, you know that like it's all about like you stress test something. You put it under pressure. And we had talked about this before, right? You put it under pressure. And when you put it under pressure, you find out where the weakness is. The same thing, you've heard the saying before, right? The chain is only strong as the weakest link. How do you know what the weakest link is? When you put that chain under a load, right? The one that breaks. That's your weak link. You don't know which one is that weak link until you put it on a load, right? So now the Muslim community, the Muslim ummah, we are under a load. And the stress fractures are everywhere. The breakdowns are everywhere. And are we learning from this? Because now we're seeing the situation, like I'm having so many, brothers are contacting me and like, please make dua, and they're telling me what's going on in India and Pakistan, and like the situation is like is increasing. It's getting really, really bad, right? And then even here, we're seeing it also this re-emergence, right, of policies that are related to now. We're going to have to shut this down. We're going to have to shut that down. We got Arizona, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, California, etc. Right? So we're seeing all of this like it's coming back again. And we have to ask ourselves this question that now, are we learning from this test? Are we getting the benefit? Are we examining ourselves and are we seeing our own deficiencies? Are we seeing our own weaknesses? Are we seeing the lack of unity that we have? And are we willing and are we ready to do something about it? Are we willing to change? Because the thing now is that it's almost like Muslims have gone into a survival mode. I'm just trying to survive it. That is not how a Muslim functions. We don't survive, we thrive. Right? We take a situation and we move to the forefront. We lead. That's who Muslims are. That is this ummah. Ukhrijat lin-nas. Khayru ummah. SubhanAllah. How do you lead from the back? How do you lead with no unity of purpose? How do you lead when it's all about the individual mentality? How do you lead when I want to be the exception? How do you lead when we don't even know how to follow? You cannot lead if you are not first a prime example of what a follower should be. Because ultimately our first responsibility is ittiba'u nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If I can't follow Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am now disqualified from being a leader. If you want to be a leader, you are disqualified from being a leader. True leaders would rather be followers. They'd rather do the khidmah of the leaders. They would rather be helping the leaders. They would rather be a support mechanism for the leaders. If you look at the Sahaba, right? We said, what does unity look like? What does leadership look like? Look at the Sahaba. Did Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, did he want to be the leader? No. Did Umar radiallahu anh, did he want to be the leader? No. Abdurrahman radiallahu anh, mashallah, very intelligent. When Umar radiallahu anh is passing away, now 6 Sahaba are chosen, like you guys figure it out, right? So Abdurrahman, he's smart. He's like, okay, subhanAllah. I'll take the ultimate responsibility for making the decision. So that disqualifies me from being the leader. Why? Because I can't choose myself. Very smart, very intelligent. Then Uthman radiallahu anh, did he want to be the leader? No. Even Ali radiallahu anh, he didn't want to be the leader. It was a matter of the same thing that led to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh and each and every one of his predecessors accepting the position. It was about like, this is a responsibility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has equipped me, and now this is something that if I don't do it, I will be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So as a leader, he was what? All of them were what? They followed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were the servants of the community. What does unity look like? We know as a concept, But my dear respected brothers, elders, sisters in Islam, we do need to engage in the conversation, that internal conversation between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, within our families, within our communities, that practically, what should it look like? Now, right now, while we're under this stress, while we're under this load, when we have this opportunity to learn, to change, to adjust, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because what unity looks like is when all of our hearts come together, unified, same intention, same purpose, based on Quran and the Sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When my ego is underneath my feet, when my intellect, right? You said the wajh, if you spit on somebody in their face, or you smack their face, we know that even in Islam, you can't even hit an animal in the face, right? Why? Because we understand the face to be the representation of the dignity of the person, isn't it? Right? It's a big deal. Hit somebody in the face, that's a big deal in Islam. What do we do with our face? Our dignity. Behind that is our intellect. What do we do with that? What we're getting ready to do now. We put it on the ground in front of Allah. Because at the end of the day, Islam means taslim. We have to submit, we have to surrender. If we are not willing to do that, forget everything else. You can prop up a facade. You can prop up something that looks like it. It'll be a generic representation, right? It'll be a veneer. It won't be real. It won't have any substance to it. It'll be superficial. It won't have any depth. It will not be able to handle stress, strain, any load. You could put that up for optics. But it will be absolutely no benefit to us whatsoever. Until, just like when we are in sajda, we are willing to take our egos and we are willing to take our intellect and we make them submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we will be unified. When the akhirah becomes our perspective, when Jannah becomes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ridwan Allah, the pleasure of Allah becomes our focus. When you and I have this laser focus collectively together, and we let the trappings and these mata'ul ghurur, these things of deception in this dunya, when we let them go, they will come to us. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them to us, it's completely up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't duck it, you can't dodge it. Whatever is written for you is going to come. It doesn't require our focus. But this time, now, because our focus is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will come and grovel at our feet. And this is from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is from the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you make your purpose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pleasure of Allah, the ibadah of Allah, this dunya will place itself at your feet and it will beg you to accept it. It will be your slave and you will not be its slave. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us His ibad true and sincere. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unify our hearts and our minds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to submit our egos and our intellect to His Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us and forgive us of our shortcomings and our deficiencies. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and use us as a means of hidayat for the whole of the humanity. Jazakumullahu khairan jazaa wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.